what I want to do now is I want to create a little driver program for my class library so that I can actually call these methods and all of that dynamically. I want to show you how the static object works. I want to show you how the instance object works in a driver program. So what I'm going to do next is create this driver program. I'm going to go ahead and create the new project within this same solution. So you're actually going to see two projects in one solution. So how I'll do that is I'll come over here to File, New, Project, very much the same thing as we've done before. I'm going to come over here and click on Console Application, and I'll just call this Console Application 1 is fine. I'll add this to the existing solution. I could have created a new solution and then added this solution to this project, but this is the easier way. And I'll just go ahead and say OK. And what will happen is that that console application project will be added to my existing open solution. Now notice again here, you'll see a folder for references, and you see the references, you'll see COBOL source file, and you see this main.cob put up right here in the window, and it is open and ready to be edited. Now notice I've got class1.cob open as well. So I have multiple programs open, and I can switch back and forth between them as I need to. So let's go ahead and go through this again. And the difference here is before you saw class1.cob, it has a class ID, and in the main COBOL program you see our old friend program ID, and of course it's declared as main, and I have end program main, so all is good there. And then and then here's what we're exposing out to the COBOL world, console application 1.main. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go ahead and kind of connect up these two projects. The easiest way to do that is to come over here to my references in my console application 1, and I will right mouse click on that and say add a reference. Okay, now I've got my add reference window up here. Notice you can see that we can select from a whole host of choices. There are .NET components that are out there. This is straight out of the .NET framework, and as you can see, I've got a number of all of those things there. COM objects that I can add as a reference. You see all of the various COM objects. Any open projects, and of course I see my class library 1 right there, and that's the same as it is right there. I can browse for projects. I can look at any recent projects that I've had I've been working with. In this particular case, I want to go ahead and establish a relationship with class library 1, so I'll go ahead and select that and just say OK. And now notice that I see class library 1 as a reference here with the console application 1. So what I need to do now is I need to connect up my COBOL program with what's out here in my references, and how we do that is we put entries into this repository statement. So I'll go ahead and add a line here and go ahead and put in the class. So it would be, the syntax would be class COBOL, and I'll call it class, and then as. Now watch what happens right at this particular point. I'm going to put in a quote, and when I see the quote, or when the system sees the quote, IntelliSense fires up, and you actually see the available classes that I can expose to my COBOL program. I can see class library 1, console application, Microsoft, or system, and this is a part of the system namespace. I'll show you a little bit about that in just a moment. So I'll double click on class library 1, and we'll move forward and identify what part of class library 1 that we're going to go ahead and expose. Now here is something that is a little bit odd in terms of behavior, and you need to pay close attention to this. Normally I would preface this by saying this might be odd behavior, but I think it's really a bug, and I'm not sure exactly whose bug it is, but it's just some odd behavior in the editor environment that you need to be aware of. Normally I would say class library 1 dot and then something else, and what would happen here at this particular point is I would see a little box or drop down box that shows me all of the classes that I would have inside class library 1. That apparently is not working, but the fix for that is just to move your cursor down a line and back up, and notice I see a squiggly line there for class library 1. Now if I go ahead and put my period in there, this is the appropriate behavior that should happen. So I'll just click on class library or class 1 and then close the quote and press my period there, and I should be all set. Now, one other little caveat here, and I like to go ahead and do this early on in the process when I'm programming because I usually forget to do this, is I'll put my period down on the line underneath this. The rule in the repository is you only have one period following all of the class declarations or the property declarations here. So just so that you know, if I go ahead and put in another one like this, I'll say, I'll call this class, if I could spell that right. Let's use, let's say console, and as, and again I'll hit the quote, and this comes right out of the system namespace, so I'll click on system dot. Now this one, as you can see, is working perfectly, and I don't have any, and it seemed to have any issues here. I'll call this console, and you can see again I'm just started typing the word console right up there, and it takes me right to the place in the list that I need to be. I'll select it and press enter, and system.console is all I want, so I'll close the quote, and again I'm set and ready to go. Again, note that there are no periods here on either of these two lines. The period is right here. Okay, at this particular point in time, I could go ahead, now that I've gone ahead and connected all of the dots here and connected up my references with my COBOL program, I can go ahead and start working on making my COBOL driver program operate here. Now let's go ahead and start working with the classes here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke console write line here. And again, this is the same as using a regular standard display, but I'm showing you how to do it the .NET way. So I'll go ahead and say invoke. We'll call this console. Now notice, again, this is the same. I'm referring to this right here. Console is system.console. And I want to use the write line method here. So I'll say W, and I see the write line right here again, so I could just go ahead and put that in there. And if I click on space, notice what happens. Write line just happens to be what we call overloaded, and there are a number of ways to get write line to work. So I can scroll through here and basically see what I'm looking for. So I could again finish it up just by using that using by value and then the appropriate information following that. So I'll go ahead and say using by value, and then we'll just say we'll just call this static methods. And that should be fine. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and invoke the static methods that we created in our OO COBOL class library 1. By now you should be getting the idea that invoke is the same as a call, and the construct is the same here. So I'm going to invoke my COBOL class and specify the static methods here. So invoke COBOL class, and then you can see my drop down here, my static method 1. So I'll click on that and say period, and I'm going to do the same thing with the static method here. And static method 2. Now notice I didn't see any of those instance methods here, and there's a real good reason for that, because with instance methods always have to be instantiated first. And with a static class, you can just make the invocation directly to it, and it should work just fine. Now, again, being a good COBOL programmer like I am, I'm going to go ahead and lift this line right here and copy it, and then copy it right down below here so that we can put in my instance methods so you can see exactly how that works. Instance methods.